Hey everyone, so today I will teach you how to speak the first self-love language. Self-attunement is the first self-love language. Now, what language do you speak to communicate with your inner world? The language of self-attunement is the conscious and intentional tuning in to use both verbal and non-verbal communication to deeply connect with our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and psychological inner world so we can understand our inner experiences. This first language of self-love, this language of self-attunement, allows you to communicate with yourself, recognize and validate your unmet needs, understand their origins, and address them with presence, awareness, and understanding. Speaking the language of self-attunement consistently over time cultivates a deep and trusting relationship with self, which is the foundation of self-love. When you attune to yourself, you affirm your worth and get an opportunity to validate your own life experiences and your own truth. Speaking the language of self-attunement sends a powerful message to yourself, other people, and the universe that you are worthy of love, care, attention, presence, kindness, and understanding. When you are self-attuned, you get an opportunity to understand and acknowledge your needs, and then you have a choice to respond to them in a way that nurtures and heals you. The language of self-attunement is one of the most important pillars in the foundation of self-love. Now, why is the language of self-attunement essential for trauma survivors? Because trauma often disconnects individuals from their own internal world, leading to a sense of numbness, dissociation, confusion, overwhelming emotional pain. This disconnection can result in survivors feeling estranged from themselves, struggling to understand their own needs, and often disregard or misunderstand their own feelings. This experience of trauma can also make it difficult to understand our own emotions, as they might seem too intense, or maybe they're repressed, unpredictable, or frightening, or overwhelming emotions. But speaking the language of self-attunement helps you bridge this gap by fostering presence, understanding, patience, connection, and a relationship with oneself. This language of self-love allows trauma survivors to slowly rebuild the trust in self that was shattered by their traumatic childhood. By consistently tuning into their needs and their internal environment, survivors reclaim a sense of self which is often fragmented by trauma. Speaking the language of self-attunement empowers them to make conscious choices that support their needs as they become more attuned to what genuinely nurtures and sustains them. Self-attunement helps in regulating the nervous system, which is often dysregulated in trauma survivors. By paying attention to their internal states, survivors can learn to recognize when they're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or disconnected, and take steps to soothe and nurture themselves. This self-regulation is a crucial part of trauma recovery, as it helps you regain a sense of control over overwhelming internal emotions or external reactions and situations. As survivors become more attuned to their internal experiences, they gain a clear understanding of who they are beyond the trauma. This self-knowledge empowers them to make choices that reflect their true desires and needs rather than being driven by fear or avoidance. So in this way, language of self-attunement becomes a pathway to living a life that is aligned with one's authentic self, which is the ultimate expression of self-love. For trauma survivors who often struggle with feelings of unworthiness or self-blame, self-attunement is a way to counter these negative feelings by Actively speaking the language of self-attunement, survivors learn to treat themselves with dignity, love, and respect that may have been denied from them in the past. This practice helps to dismantle the internalized message of guilt or shame that trauma can instill and replaces it with a more nurturing and affirming inner dialogue. So, in conclusion, speaking the language of self attunement enables trauma survivors to understand and reconnect with themselves, regulate their emotions, trust themselves, counteract thoughts and beliefs of unworthiness, and cultivate self love. By tuning in and speaking to their needs and experiences, survivors can begin to heal the wounds of trauma and build a life that is rooted in self love. So, how do you speak the language of self attunement? Speaking the language of self attunement means addressing the present moment with your full attention, awareness, and presence. When we are self attuned, we communicate our presence by fully tuning in to our internal landscape of thoughts, emotions, physical sensations. For trauma survivors, this can be challenging as we can be stuck in a trigger or a painful memory in the present moment. So it's hard for us to tune into what is really going on because our nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. However, with practice, we can learn to speak the language of self attunement, which is the first step to communicating non judgmental witnessing and supportive presence to all parts of us. So, I'm going to give you this practice now, and I want you to do it for 7 days straight because this practice will help you attune to yourself. And this is the practice which is foundational in speaking the language of self attunement. So, to practice the language of self attunement each day, find a quiet space where you can sit comfortably and safely. Close your eyes and focus on your breath. Notice the sensation of air moving in and out of your body. While staying grounded and focused on the movement of your breath, observe your internal landscape. What does your heart space feel like? What does your gut feel like? Scan your body from head to toe for sensations. Observe the thoughts and feelings arising. Instead of getting caught up in the thoughts and the feelings or sensations, simply notice them. Let them pass. Don't add story to them, don't dwell on them, don't reject or shun them. Simply accept your inner thoughts, feelings, and sensations as a part of your inner environment, like you accept furniture in your home. This is how you self attune. I want you to do this foundational practice for 30 days straight or till it becomes a part of your habit. It becomes a habit, a routine, a practice that that you use to stay connected to yourself. This foundational practice communicates a non-reactive, curious presence, allowing you to tune into your internal landscape and being with them without being too involved or too overwhelmed by them. You communicate your self love by being a present, aware, safe, understanding, curious spectator, completely tuned into your inner world. This practice is crucial in times of crisis and marks the first step on your healing journey. As you tune into self and speak the language of self attunement, you will begin to notice your mind, body, and soul communicating and engaging with you, sending you messages, signals, and answers you've been looking for. This engaged presence and awareness is the foundation of the first language of self love, self attunement. The language of self attunement allows you to recognize your needs, wants, and desires. So, at the completion of this video, I would like you to practice this this language of self-attunement for 30 days, 90 days, till it becomes a part of you. And I want you to practice this for the next 7 days, twice or 3 times a day. And then we're going, in the next video, I will teach you how to self-attune to all different parts of you. We will learn how to self-attune to our intuition. We will learn how to self-attune to our behavioral patterns. We will learn how to self-attune to your emotions, your body, your higher self. Learn to self-attune to your ancestors. Learn to self-attune to your inner critic. Learn to self-attune to your inner child, and then we will learn to self-attune to our addictions before we go on to healing ourselves with compassion and self-forgiveness. So this is the first language of self-love, self-attunement. I hope this video helps you in becoming closer to your higher self. See you next time. Bye.